Greetings of peace. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you live in. Today, on on our Lead from Your Soul podcast, I want to talk about the emotional symptoms of low resilience, about the physical and mental. Today, we're talking about the emotional, and also we are looking at resilience from the inside out, which is the approach I use with my coaching. But before I do that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Aya Carey. I'm just a young lady, an adventurer, a wayfarer, crossing continents and cultures only to discover the truth that unites us all, our interconnection with each other and the universe. My story is one of intense transitions. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and spent the first half of my childhood in Tripoli, North Africa, and the second half in Dublin, Ireland. And you don't have to be a cross-cultural specialist to imagine that's like living between worlds. I'm a certified leadership coach, credentialed by the International Coaching Federation, an emotional resilience coach and mentor, and an organizational leadership consultant. I'm also a published author and speaker. My goal is to transform the conception of leadership into one of inner peace, wisdom, and creation. I empower leaders to lead from their soul through conscious awareness via coaching and mentoring. I help ambitious professionals, executives, and change leaders to excel, to beat burnout, enhance performance, and increase productivity, and life from a state of well being. So, just to recap, last session, we talked about the physical and mental symptoms of low emotional resilience. How do you know when you have low emotional resilience? It's important to recognize the symptoms in yourself and others so that you can behave in the appropriate manner. So, if someone is having a low mood, then you want to have more compassion towards them and be open to be more understanding. Also, when you're in a low mood, you need to be able to recognize the symptoms so that you can be more cautious in terms of not making any major decisions and trying to avoid interaction so that you don't get into conflict with other people, right? Because if you're not in the right state of mind, you want to have some space to yourself and take care of you. So looking at the physical symptoms of low emotional resilience, you feel exhausted, tired, unable to keep up with simple tasks. The appetite changes, so some people overeat, they indulge in emotional eating. Others lose appetite for life and food. Then you have chronic illness, so it presents as poor health. So it could be like high blood pressure, diabetes, dyspepsia problems. There's so many. I guess the list is just almost endless with the conditions that can be like anxiety disorders. Well, I guess that's not physical, but in terms of physical, yes, IBS, digestive problems, yes, high blood pressure, fatigue, which is being tired all the time. Also, insomnia and difficulty falling asleep. So for some, it's difficulty falling asleep. Others, it's difficulty staying asleep. And that was a presenting symptom for one of my clients. She was so stressed that it was really hard for her to fall asleep at night. And after 2 sessions of emotional resilience coaching, she reported being able to sleep. Both of us actually. So mental symptoms. What are the mental symptoms of low emotional resilience? First, you have poor memory. It's hard to learn a new skill or learn a new language because it's hard to focus and concentrate. Lack of motivation or apathy. You're not interested in doing any activities involving other people or social activities. If you're working, you just focus on your work. Not really interested in doing anything. Like a sense of like, meh, like I don't care kind of thing. And it's just lack of interest really in life in general and in things that bring joy. A sense of despair, which is like an extreme case where people get to the point where they feel so depressed, they feel helplessness, which can lead to cynicism and indifference. Finally, the fourth symptom, mental symptom of low resilience, is procrastination. So they feel overwhelmed, or you feel overwhelmed by self doubt and fear that you lack the clarity to get things done. So you just keep procrastinating. And I don't know if you ever felt like that, but there are times when you're in a low mood and just it's so hard to get things done because your thinking is working against you, kind of thing. So today we're going to talk about the emotional symptoms. Number one, And there's four of them. Number one is anxiety or depression. So you feel sad most of the time and you have the urge to cry for no apparent reason. That's a symptom of low resilience. That's when your resilience plummets. And we do get less resilient. Our resilience kind of fluctuates, and then we're tired or we're hungry, or just when there's a lot going on around us sometimes. So it's different when you just have those low. We all go through ebbs and flows, right? But if it's something that's there for a long period of time, then that's when you know that you need to get help. Irritability or anger. So overreaction to stress. You just blow up when there's like the smallest irritant, and that can manifest as road rage or other risky behavior. It can also lead to conflict at home and at work. So if your relationship, the quality relationship is starting to start to wonder what's happening. Is it like because you have low emotional resilience that you're so irritable that it's really hard to maintain healthy relationships? Then number three, in terms of emotional symptoms, is moodiness. And our psychological state affects our bodily hormones, which tend to fluctuate. So we get highs and lows, and a form of that would be maybe like bipolar disorder. I don't know, probably an extreme form of that where it's just like, their highs and lows. It's, you just don't know when the person is going to flip. Number four, the fourth emotional symptom is becoming isolated or overly clingy. And people who have low resilience, they can isolate themselves from social interaction as a defense mechanism, or they can become overly dependent on their family, close friends, which is unhealthy because you need a healthy level of social or human interaction. So let's look at how do we address these series of relating to low resilience. And today I'm introducing this concept of resilience from the inside out. So most conventional approaches to resilience are based on the hypothesis that the human capacity for resilience is not inherent. So they're trying to instill resilience from the outside in. So it's an outside in approach. You have these cognitive behavioral therapy, you have positive affirmations, meditation based interventions. And while beneficial, they fall short of recognizing our inbuilt psychological immune system or resilience system. They're based on the hypothesis that our resilience is related to genetic factors, personal qualities, external determinants, social conditioning or the environment, also management strategies. So they think, oh, you have to have a management strategy so that you can become resilient, right? And these things do work. However, our approach is that resilience is from the inside out. It's about awakening that inbuilt psychological system, which is the basis for a balanced, healthy mental state. So human experience is created, or how your mind works helps you awaken your innate well-being. So you get this psychological freedom that comes with that. And most of the other coping strategies or technique, they pale in comparison to built psychological system or immune system, psychological immune system, because the coping mechanism, there's considerable effort involved, and the outcome or the relief is short-lived and tends to have drawbacks. So, I mean, I've heard of somebody that was working on himself a day because they felt like your emotional well-being or your resilience is mental, emotional, and spiritual is out there for you to earn. And therefore we worked really hard to earn it. But understanding that it's within you, everything you need, the answers to what you seek are within you. So this understanding of this idea of the fitra, which is an Arabic word that describes the state of purity and innocence every child is born with. So just awakening that fitra, that state of well-being we're born with. So it's something that's within us that gets covered over the years from misconceptions, from media messages, from misunderstandings of parents, teachers, and caregivers, from just the general messaging in society. And then it gets covered over, and we think that we are broken, or that we need fixing, or that we need to earn our well-being, when in reality it's all within us and that we are born whole, right? So that you're born whole, you always have been, always will be, right? So let's look at the statistics on this understanding of human nature of human experience, understanding, or understanding how your mind works. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can. Share screen. And there. Tell me if you can see it. I'm going to turn on the chat. So look at this is the understanding that we use for the emotional, or backed by 40 years of research, which proves that it's life-changing. So in the community, research has shown that there's a 74% reduction in assaults, 62% reduction in violent crime, 100% reduction in homicides, and 60%. So I'm going to look here over the mental health, because we were discussing about the psycho-emotional symptoms today. So 91% of the participants reported being significantly more in control of their behavior, thoughts, and feelings, which is a significant number. It's a large number. 75% reported being, and 82% reported significantly higher self-esteem and positive changes in the marriage and relationship, personal relationship. And that was after 6 years of, they followed up for 6 years, and still had that increase in self-esteem and positive changes in marriage and relationships, which leads to a happier quality of life. So your life becomes happier. In terms of psychology, there was a 80% reduction in affective disorders. And affective disorders are disorders that relate to how we feel and think. So we're talking about bipolar disorders, depression. So there was an 80% reduction in depression and bipolar disorders, or anxiety. Oh, well, yeah. 84, and then the next one study showed that there's an 84% significant reduction in anxiety disorder, which is very common in the United States. I think I've mentioned that workplace stressors account for 120,000 deaths each year and are responsible for 190,000 billion in healthcare costs in the US. That's annual, that's yearly. And then look at the studies again here. Psychology, 79% reduction in adjustment disorders. Now, in relation to education, when these coaching training and coaching, well, human nature of experience-based understanding was implemented through training and coaching in schools, there was a 75% reduction in school discipline referrals and suspensions. There was a 500% increase in parental, and 80% reduction in school truancy rates. And truancy rates are related to absence that's intentional, unauthorized, illegal, or unjustified. So they're just kids basically skipping school, or students skipping school for no reason. So there was an 80% reduction in that. So you can see this shows the quality of the quality, and that's my website. The looking at the resources page is my book, and the free online goal setting guidebook and workbook, as you can download it from www.drayekthecary.com, the resources. I'm trying to get back to the actual podcast page, so maybe I can click after this. Yeah. So that was the research. It's 40 years of research. There's a lot in there. Significant reduction, improvement in the quality of life, improvements in the community and education. So, I mean, it's pretty solid. So how's my approach different to emotional resilience coaching? First, it's an inside-out approach that, awaken your innate well-being. And then also it's holistic approach. So it recognizes and acknowledges that we're not separate individuals at home and at work. It encourages us to bring all of our interests and strengths into all areas of our life and maximize our personal and professional potential. So you can't just maximize your professional potential without working your personal. It's all connected, maximizing both personal and professional. Because some people get, the organizations offer coaching to their employees. It's like, oh, we just want to improve their quality of work. But it's like you cannot separate the personal and professional life because it's one individual. So you have to work on both, basically. So holistic approach, inside out. And finally, based on the premise that we are whole, always have been, and always will be. And it's just that you can't see it sometimes. And my job is to help you see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So today we're going to share a transformational story of someone, of a family, actually, a couple, and they have children. And we see how their life has been transformed by understanding how their mind work and finding the calm and clarity. So this lady called Karen, and she's a sensitive, kind, compassionate lady, always been the peacemaker in her family and everywhere. And her husband, it tends to be that opposite attract. So her husband was kind of more aggressive and more outspoken, and he had an anger issue. So her job was always to mediate the conflict in the family between her and her children. And then she got to the point where it felt like she had this realization that this is not working, that she's always under pressure, and this whole anger, always anticipating when the fight's gonna fix it, that she developed this busy mind. That was her coping mechanism. And this busy mind kind of wears you out because you're always thinking, and that takes energy, it takes up time, and it can get to you. It can even present as physical symptoms, right? Like the physical symptoms of chronic stress. So she tried to speak up, muster the courage, and said, I just don't feel this does not feel right. This is not working. We have to change our relationship. And she actually mustered the courage to say that to her husband. He's like, what is wrong? I mean, everything is fine. We've been married for over 12 years. So she said, I want counseling. I think I want counseling or coaching, trying to work on herself, better herself. So he said, maybe you can go because I don't feel like I need it. So she decided, okay, I'm going to work on myself. She goes and finds a counselor, and they talk about how her human experience is created, how her mind works, and then eventually, like calm and clarity, connecting with her innate well-being and wisdom to see how she's showing up. So a lot of the time when we have problems, there's a nice quote by Stephen Chandler where he says, if there's a problem and you're the leader, you are the problem. The good news is if you are the problem, you're the solution. So the leader of the family is the parents, right? Are the parents, I mean. And so part of the solution was her trying to work on herself and see how she was contributing to the dynamic of the relationships. Because a lot of the time when we have conflict, then there is a dynamic there, and we get stuck in that dynamic. And then to break free from that cycle, it's like we need to transform ourselves, develop a better way of looking at things. And there is this premise that, with this inside out understanding, that no event, no matter how traumatic, cannot be overcome through looking at it or experiencing it from a higher level of consciousness. So that comes the point of developing that higher level of understanding or higher level of consciousness. So she goes to the counselor, starts to develop a calm mind. She's showing up better in the relationship. She's able to speak up. And as a result, the fact that she's showing up better, that her husband starts to change. So he's not as angry before. It's almost like when you transform your life, when you understanding, then it affects relationships in your life. So other people start to change because the dynamic has changed. You have changed. And he is more gentle. He's less likely to get angry. And when he does, he remembers, he kind of is reminded somehow, and he stops. And things work out until one day she comes home late from work, and she comes home. Her husband is very angry. One of the kids has left the house, and the other one is crying, is having a tantrum, and basically just blows up in her face. And intimidated by it, but the new her, that transformed her, was calm, just stood her ground, and she did not give in to the fear. So she's like, okay, this is part of, I'm not, this is not acceptable. I'm not okay with you taking out your anger. I know you're upset, but it's not okay for you to blame me and the kids and people around you for your anger. So he gets even extra angry. So he backs up and goes upstairs and packs his bags, and then leaves the house. And she was okay with that. So she walks up to her daughter. Daughter starts crying because of the tension. She calms her down. Her son comes home. He says he wants to spend the night with his friend. And she's like, maybe it's good to have that space so you can go and stay with your friend. And she had a nice, quiet night with her daughter until her husband came home later on that night. They went to bed. She did not want to talk about it. And then the next morning, he was very remorseful. He felt like he did not like the way he was showing up, and he apologized, and he said, maybe we can just go for a weekend away. And her response was like, I wanted to think about it. So she got to the point where she's so calm that she doesn't want to jump at invitations. Normally she would say, yes, well, great, weekend away. But she's like, okay, I want to make sure this is right for me. So after thinking about it, it seemed like a great idea. They did go away, and they developed a new kind of relationship. So they restored their marriage, and they were ready to go home, and that there was more love in their marriage. There's more connection, and there's less anger in the family. So the interesting thing, like the takeaways from this whole conversation, is that the change in her, like the fact that she chose to transform her life, and that kind of affected everybody in the family, to the where her new understanding was her protection against this intimidation and the fear, and she did not go into those old behavior thinking patterns of, oh, I need to fix this. She's always anticipating problems and trying to fix them. But when from a calm mind, she's like, just be present, mindful in the moment, that from a place of clarity, and that managed not only to transform her life but also the life of people around her. So that's like her husband, her children, everybody around her. She saved, basically they saved their marriage together, because it takes two, right, to have a marriage. And this is common, that in relationships opposites attract, a kind, quiet person, and then you have an aggressive, outspoken person, and that can sometimes lead to problems. But then just realizing when things are not going right is an opportunity for change, an opportunity for both of them to grow. So this challenge in the relationship was an opportunity for them, both of them, to grow and develop, to grow and basically increase their level of consciousness, their level of understanding, or embrace their higher version of themselves. And her thinking her busy mind was her way of, it was her coping mechanism, her way of dealing with the pressure, constant pressure. And that was not serving her, and it wasn't serving anybody, because it only perpetuated the cycle, the vicious cycle of anger and blame. And her changing her life was a wake-up call for her husband to understand that it was time for him to change too, because initially he was kind of resistant. So he used his anger to cover up or hide his insecurity. And this busy mind she developed was her mechanism of dealing with his anger. And somehow they lost love in the relationship, because it just turned into a vicious cycle, and their life was just not calm. They didn't have a good quality of life. But then when you regain your bearings, you connect, you awaken your innate well-being, you discover a new sense of being in the world, a new strength and resolve. So she was no longer hostage to the fear, and she'll make a difference in her life and in her relationship. Her calm mind, our calm mind, and your calm mind will help you access your innate or inner wisdom. And for us to evolve in relationship, whether with a spouse or a parent or a friend, we need to access that inner strength, that inner clarity. So trust in the power of a calm mind, because with a calm mind, you'll understand, you'll know how to show up in the moment. You don't have to rehearse it. You don't have to fear anything, because you know that you are going to be able to access that fitra, that innate well-being, that state of. Thank you for your time. Again, this is Dr. Aya Akari, leadership and emotional resilience coach and mentor. You can reach out. I would love to hear your feedback and your takeaways. You can reach out to me on my social media platform, Dr. Aya Akari, my website, www.drayakari.com. You can download my free goal setting workbook and guidebook, and sign up for my book, Lead from Your Soul, the four world views of inspiring leaders. I'd love to hear your takeaway. How's it going? Did these emotional, physical, and mental symptoms of low emotional resilience resonate with you? Are you experiencing any of them? How's it showing up in your relationship, in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, on your family, or your parents, or your friends, at work? What's it like at what are you like at work? Are you irritable? Are you relaxed? Are you leading your life, or is your life leading you? Are you leading your life from a place of calm, clarity, and wisdom, or are you just blindly wandering blindly and aimlessly through life? I'd love to hear from you. Please connect with me, comment, share, and like if you're on YouTube. And I would love to connect with you and let you know more about how I can help you. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.